Week 10 NFL Sundays in the books. So we have one more game in Week 10, but I thought I'd give you some instant reactions from all the games we've had so far in Week 10. Before I do that, please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit the link in the description for the merch stores. You can see I'm wearing cool Walter football hoodie. You can turn any shirt we have in the merch store into hoodies. Also visit walterfootball.com. We have tons of content for the NFL. It's all free too. NFL picks against the spread. We hit our pick of the month today with the Lions. We also had the alt line minus 20.5 plus 390. So again, it's all free. 2026, 2027 NFL mock drafts. We grade every signing, we grade every trade from the trade deadline, NFL power rankings, etc. It's all free at walterfootball.com. All right, let's get to these games. Going to touch on the Thursday night game briefly. Broncos 10, Raiders 7. Bo Nix was awful in this game. Now, I do wonder if it looked like the Broncos were experimenting with a bunch of stuff. I think they kind of took the Raiders for granted, and rightfully so. They still won, even though they had their like D performance. But still, it looked like they're trying some trick plays and whatnot. It didn't look like they were overly serious. But Bo Nix showed some very poor footwork in this game, caused some interceptions. He was just awful. Look, Bo Nix has a very low ceiling. He has a higher floor, I think, than we've seen here, but a very low ceiling. I think his absolute ceiling is kind of like Alex Smith or Jimmy Garoppolo back when he was piloting the Niners offense. So Nix was certainly not worth a top half pick in the first round. Sean Payton definitely whiffed on that one. If I'm Payton, I kind of have to wonder if Jarrett Stidham would be a better option at this point. J.K. Dobbins got hurt in this game, so R.J. Harvey may be the bell cow if Dobbins is going to miss some time. So if Harvey's somehow available in your league, pick him up. But this should have been a much greater win than just 10-7. This is embarrassing. The Raiders did nothing. They had one drive for a touchdown, and then they went 7 drives without securing a first down. Like, that's how bad the Raiders were, and not surprising given how great the Denver defense is. It's just a shame that Denver's defense is going to be wasted. If the Broncos make the playoffs, which looks like they're going to at 8-2, they're going to be an easy fade in round 1, unless they get the first round bye, and then there'll be an easy fade in round 2. All right, let's get to the Sunday games. We had another stupid Sunday morning exhibition game in Europe. Colts 31, Falcons 25. This is actually like an entertaining game, I guess, for a European exhibition game. It looked like the Colts should have won this game by more, but Daniel Jones got strip sacked twice, just ruined 2 drives in the second half. Drake London went nuts in this game, and I thought, like, why wasn't Sauce Gardner guarding him for most of the game? Now, that changed late. But if you're going to get an elite cornerback, if you're going to spend 2 first-round picks on one, like, why wouldn't you just put him on the opposing receiver, like the top receiver? Atlanta only has one good receiver. So, like, why was Sauce Gardner not defending Drake London? I don't understand this coaching. But, speaking of coaching, for a split second, I felt very bad for Raheem Morris because his team played so hard in this game and they lost. And then now they're 0-3-6 and their playoff dreams are probably over. And then I remembered how poorly they played in that Panthers game in week 3 when they're complete no-show, and that Dolphins game a few weeks ago when they were another no-show. So no, I don't feel bad for Raheem Morris. He should have been fired. He's not going to be fired until the end of the season, and I don't even know if they're going to fire him. I don't think Atlanta's ownership is very strong, so I don't think they quite know what they're doing, but Raheem Morris should have been fired already. He's a failure of a head coach. He's a really good defensive coordinator. I'll give him that. He's kind of like, like the Wade Phillipses of the world, the Norv Turners, the guys who are really good coordinators, but just couldn't cut it as head coaches. This is twice already that teams have quit on Raheem Morris. Not that they quit today, but they quit on him against the Dolphins. They quit on him against the Panthers. Just ugly showings here. They should not be 3-6. The Falcons have so much talent. They should be at least 5-4. But yeah, it's just Raheem Morris is just that inept. The Saints beat the Panthers 17-7. I got a laugh earlier. So on NBC Sports, they have these quick videos. If you look at their website, it's usually some girl and then some other guy who's usually like he looks like sickly skinny or something. And they give like the worst predictions ever. Not that I hit everything or anything, but their top plays of the week. The guy was like, I like the Dirty Birds, the Falcons, and okay, I mean, yeah, that hit if you had 6.5. But then the girl was like, I like the Panthers. They're going back to their crib, and I'm like, okay, that's why you like them. The Panthers had good home road splits heading into this game, but that was such nonsense. It was such a small sample size. You can't really judge anything on that. Like if it was like 3 or 4 years, yeah, sure. But like, there's no distinction of the Panthers home field. There's no like high altitude where and where teams are sucking air in Denver, or a very loud dome or something like you have in Minnesota. Like, there's no reason for the Panthers to play well at home. And we saw Tyler Shuck go in there, have his way with the Panthers, and I think the Panthers were kind of like fat and happy off their win against the Packers. I don't think we necessarily got their best performance here, but it was nice to see Tyler Shuck get a win. The Saints have had such a tough schedule. Outside of this game, the one easy game they had this year was against the Giants. They won that one. That was the only time they battled a team worse than Group C. Group C being average in the NFL. So second time the Saints, I guess, are 2 for 2 when battling teams below average this year. And I think they're going to have some other games. They have the Panthers once again. They're going to have the Falcons again. Not that the Falcons are below C, but they're still C. So, yeah, I think the Saints can rattle off a couple wins here and they're not going to be going back to 500 or anything. But if they finish the season with 4 or 5 wins, I'm not going to be too surprised. And they really have to see what they have in Tyler Shuck, because the draft's coming up soon in about 5.5 months. So they really need to figure out what they're going to be doing at quarterback. And Shuck had a nice performance here. You have to give it to him, but we'll see what he does otherwise. So anyway, the next game was Texans 30, Jaguars 29. What an embarrassing performance by the Jaguars defense. Second week in a row. They couldn't stop the Raiders last week with no offensive line. Geno Smith just went up and down the field against them in the fourth quarter and overtime. And then now with Davis Mills starting a quarterback, the Texans look like they're going to blow this. They allowed two special teams gaffes that gave the Jaguars 14 points. So it looked like the Texans were just going to get buried here, but the Jaguars could not score or even move the ball at all in the fourth quarter, whereas the Texans just outscored them. I think it was like 26-0 in the fourth quarter, or 29-0. It was pretty insane. One takeaway here for the Texans fantasy wise is Woody Marks, 14 carries compared to Nick Chubb's 5 carries. Now, we've seen this before. There was one game where Woody Marks had a big game and then he did nothing the next week. I think it was against the Titans, and coincidentally they played the Titans next week. So we'll see if this is permanent. I really hope it is, because Woody Marks is much better than Nick Chubb. Like, there's no reason Nick Chubb should be carrying the ball anymore. He's just so washed up. But Davis Mills, solid performance here. Much different than playing the Broncos. When you have a backup quarterback playing against an elite defense, and we had a lot of that today. They tend to struggle. But when a backup quarterback on a semi-decent team plays against a bad defense like the Jaguars, they can do well. And we saw Davis Mills just have a monster game. And I believe that the winning DraftKings lineup this week had Davis Mills a quarterback, and they won $1 million because of Davis Mills. So I hope that person at least buys a Davis Mills jersey to celebrate. All right, next game is Dolphins 30, Bills 13. A complete no-show for the Bills. Kind of predicted this. We talked about it all week, how this is just going to be a zero-effort performance from Buffalo. Now, I still thought the Bills could still cover with zero effort, just because Miami's been that bad. But Miami played well in this game. They ran all over the Buffalo's defense. Buffalo continues to be awful against the run. They need Matt Milano to get healthy. They need their defensive tackles to get healthy as well. The middle of the defense has been awful for Buffalo this year, and there's potential for that to be rectified, but we haven't seen it yet. So we still have a long ways to go. I think by the playoffs, the Bills could have this solved, but still, this was an ugly game. The Bills committed some turnovers. Josh Allen fumbled. James Cook fumbled. This was their worst performance. And the reason for it, obviously, they're coming off the win against the Chiefs. They already beat the Dolphins earlier this year. They just took them for granted. They thought, hey, we're going to show up and beat the Dolphins again. And this is Miami Super Bowl. Kind of disappointed myself that I didn't pick the Dolphins here, but we made a couple of mistakes this week, but a good overall. All right, next game was Ravens 27, Vikings 19. JJ McCarthy had a rough game here. He threw 2 bad interceptions, just throwing the ball downfield recklessly. He had some nice plays though. So I still think the Vikings are a team that can make a run at the playoffs in the second half of the year. They haven't been this healthy all year. just these past 2 weeks, and they get Chicago next week to get back on track. But this is more about the Ravens. They're now 4-5, 3 wins in a row. They're completely healthy outside of Madubuike still being on IR. This team can really, I think, can run the table and finish at 12-5. They're 4-5 right now, so they're that good, and their schedule is easy for the most part. So, yeah, next week they get to potentially go back to 500, which would be nice for them. The Ravens next week play against the Browns, so they're going to be favored by a lot in that. There were 7.5 on the advanced spread, so it would be shocking if they didn't win that game. So they're going to be 5-5 before we know it, and then everyone's going to be talking about like, oh, the Ravens are live, whereas like we've been betting the Ravens for the past 3 weeks. Not today, just I thought Minnesota was a live dog here, and Minnesota hung around for a while, but they just killed themselves in the stakes. Speaking of the Browns lost 27-20. We've had some very bad luck with our picks with special teams nonsense. I talked about it last week. Last week was crazy. Like every crazy special teams play went against us, and it looked like that was going to be the case again at 1 o'clock. The Jets scored twice in a row on return touchdowns. So the Browns, it looks like the Browns defense had a bad game because they allowed 27 points. 14 of that came on special teams. So really they allowed 13 points, which stung because we bet the Jets team total under 19.5, and that obviously whiffed. But what can you do? Like these stupid special team stuff, like it happens sometimes, and sometimes you're going to be on the right side of it, sometimes you're going to be on the wrong side of it. Lately, we've been on the wrong side of it every single time. But hopefully, we get more lucky as the season progresses. The one thing I'll say here is that I would be shocked if Dillon Gabriel starts many more games this season. It's clear that he's just a backup at best in the NFL, and not even the sort of backup that I talked about Bo Nix potentially being. And I guess Bo Nix could be a game manager, but Dillon Gabriel, I don't think could ever be a game manager in the NFL. He just doesn't have any sort of arm. He's not accurate. He's small. He doesn't do anything. Like he looks like a third string quarterback at best. He looks like he could be a backup in the CFL. Shedeur Sanders is going to start soon. The owners want Shedeur Sanders to start. Now, there's some conflict here. Kevin Stefanski did not want to draft Shedeur Sanders, and he kind of refuses it. But I think the owners might force his hand. Maybe not next week, but if the Browns lose again, and it's kind of clear that they have zero chance of the playoffs, which I guess you could already say. I think that we're going to see Shedeur Sanders start a few games to close out the season. Because look, the Browns need to know what they have in him. I don't think highly of him, but crazier things have happened. What if he has some great games and then they feel like they don't need to draft a quarterback? They need to know what they have with all the quarterbacks, and there's no reason for Dillon Gabriel to keep starting because he sucks. This Jets defense is awful. They were ranked very poorly heading into the week. They were 25th in defensive EPA, and that was with Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner playing all year. Those guys are long gone. Now this team is going to be probably in the bottom 3 or bottom 5 closing out the season, and Dillon Gabriel could not do anything against them. He barely completed half of his passes. He stinks. Like, he needs to go. All right, next game, Patriots 28, Buccaneers 23. Drake May had some issues in the rain early on. Tony Romo commented on that during the game. But as the game went on, Drake May got stronger. He completed some deep passes, 72 yards to Kyle Williams, 26 yards to Demario Douglas. But this is TreVeyon Henderson. He ran for 55 yards and 69 yards in 2 separate runs. He was awesome this game. And against Tampa's run defense, this is not like he was playing against the Titans or another crappy defense like the Jets. Like, he was doing this against Tampa's stout run defense. And I think we see the potential here with Henderson. I don't know why he was playing behind Ramondre Stevenson all year. It made no sense to me. Now he's gotten going here, and I'd be shocked if, I can't say I'd be shocked if Stevenson returns as the starter, because Vrabel has that's like the only thing he screwed up this year. But it's going to be so hard to bench Henderson after this. 14 for 147 and 2 touchdowns. He was great. Buccaneers, Ibuka, nice game. Otherwise, no one really did anything outside of Otten. Ibuka potentially rookie of the year, hopefully, because we bet him at 40-1. We have to worry about Jackson Dart, who we'll get to right now. The Bears won 24-20 against the Giants. Jackson Dart is having a really good game here against the Bears defense, missing their middle linebacker, TJ Edwards. I was on the Bears at -4.5 for a bet for a potential medium-sized bet until I saw the Friday injury report. Looked like Edwards is going to miss this game, and I was like, I'm not betting the Bears here. TJ Edwards is so important to the defense. The last time he missed the game before this week, that was the game where Ashton Jeanty ran all over the Bears. And that was the only game where Jeanty ran well all year. So that just shows you how much Edwards means to the run defense. And then with Edwards not here, Dart was able to do whatever he wanted. Tracy went for 14 for 71. If Edwards were playing this game, that would not have happened. He's just that important for the Chicago defense. But then Jackson Dart got hurt. Russell Wilson came in. He stunk up the joint. The Giants blew their lead, and the Bears won the game. The Bears are easily one of the most overrated teams in the NFL. They play bad defense. The run defense is not bad with Edwards, but their pass defense is awful. And it will be at least until Jalen Johnson comes back from injury. I don't know when that'll be. Caleb Williams is so inconsistent. Here I really don't understand this game plan. So the Giants have the second worst run defense in the NFL. This game was windy and snowy, and yet the Bears threw 36 times and ran 20 times with the running backs. Now you might be like, oh, they were trailing, but when it was close, they were still throwing way more than running. Like, it made no sense. I thought Ben Johnson was better than this. Maybe he just had a brain fart in this game. I don't understand the thought process at all behind what he did in this game. It was awful. Just terrible coaching here by Ben Johnson. Yet he still got the win. So, no one's going to be complaining in the media, but you have to wonder what in the world was Ben Johnson doing in this game. I don't get it. All right, 4:00 games. Rams 42, 49ers 26. This is 21-0, and then the Rams 21-0. Niners scored twice, and then the Rams took over from there. They were up 42-20 before garbage time touchdown. Stafford was awesome. Hard to believe. The only quarterback ever in NFL history to throw for 4 touchdowns and no interceptions in 3 consecutive games. I would have thought someone had done that beforehand, but apparently not. Stafford is in MVP consideration. He absolutely has to be. Devontae Adams got hurt at the end of this game, but the report said that he could return if this game were close. So I don't be too worried about that. And the key here, the Rams converted some short yardage situations. They didn't do that the last time. It's like they failed every time in that opportunity against the Niners in that I think it was week 5, the week 5 Thursday night matchup. But here they did so, and they kind of rectified their mistakes. And nice win here by the Rams. And Rams Seahawks next week should be a lot of fun. Speaking of the Seahawks, 44-24 over the Cardinals. This is 38-0 at halftime, and Seattle just went to sleep in the second half. They didn't really do anything. This was an early touchdown to JSN, and then Brissett fumbled. He lost 2 fumbles that led to 2 touchdowns within a span of 5 minutes. It was so bad for Brissett. I talked about Brissett in this matchup just being awful for him. He played nothing but mediocre or bad defenses since taking over for Kyler Murray. This was his first test against a top 10 defense. And like I said, backup quarterbacks against top 10 defenses often struggle. We saw that in the Niners game with Mac Jones. We see that here with Jacoby Brissett. And we're going to see that in the next game, which was, I feel like we really don't need to delve much into in this game. Like I said, the Seahawks fell asleep in the second half. And Lions 44, Redskins 22. By the way, first time in NFL history we've had 2 44-22 games in a same window in a waning gibbous in November. So take that, ESPN data. Lions 44, Redskins 22. The Lions were out for revenge in this game. You could see it. Not only did they lose last week, but they lost to the Redskins in the playoffs. So they wanted to get back at the Redskins. They didn't punt a single time in this game. They scored in every possession except for the last possession where they're just running out the clock. Very, very, very impressive performance here by Detroit's offense, which lost Penei Sewell for a little bit. He got hurt, which pissed me off because part of the reason I love Detroit as my pick of the month was because Sewell was going to play, and then he got hurt in the first quarter, but he returned later, so that wasn't a big deal. Jahmyr Gibbs, awesome game here. He looked incredible after last week's stud. Interesting thing here that Dan Campbell took over the play calling for his offensive coordinator. So I'm not sure what that was about, but it looked like Dan Campbell really wanted to get the ball to Jameson Williams, and that's exactly what happened. Williams had a monster game. Again, this was an instance where a backup quarterback played against a bottom or against the top 10 defense. Detroit came in number 1 in EPA defense. So Mariota struggled outside of garbage time. He did have some good drives in the second half, but it was really just garbage time. It's funny that Donald Trump was in the booth, which tilted some people on X. Trump had some. Trump had like they try to give him the play calling, and it's probably the worst play calling I've ever heard. Trump was like, "All right, let's see what happens," and then yeah, he runs the ball. Like, it's awful play calling, but it was fun to have him in the booth. It's just because that angered so many people who are butthurt about politics and whatnot. But people like this is politics. Get politics out of sport. If any president had been at the stadium, and by the way, it's the first time president attended an NFL game in 50 years, which is crazy. I would think that it would happen more often. Any president would have been in the booth if they wanted to be. So, I don't see any reason why people would be mad about that. But some people just hate him for some reason. Not sure why. All right, Chargers 25, Steelers 10. And this was a very disappointing game by the Steelers. Aaron Rodgers just airmailed passes all night. This is our one big loss this week. We had some big wins, which I guess you could say the Browns was a big loss too. I'm not counting Thursday, by the way. The Browns was a big loss too. But that was special teams nonsense. I feel like we probably should have won that game. This one we definitely deserved to lose. What a bad pick. The reason I like the Steelers was I like their pass rush against the Chargers offensive line with no tackle play, which that was a good call. Not it was an obvious call, but it's still a good call. The Chargers didn't really do much offensively until late in the game, where the Steelers defense kind of gave up after a while. Like there's that one 90-yard drive where the Chargers had after the Steelers failed on fourth down. You could tell the Steelers just gave up. So for the most part, the Steelers defense did very well. I can't blame them for anything here, and that's even considering the massive amount of cornerback injuries they suffered in this game. But the offense was just so bad, and I really should have rethought that. Pittsburgh's terrible offense against the Chargers' number 6 defense. Aaron Rodgers doesn't get any protection; he has to release his ball quickly, but that doesn't excuse his play. Just overthrowing receivers left and right in this game. He was picked twice. The one wasn't his fault because it went off the hands, I think, of Calvin Austin, but the first pick was just sailed over the receiver's head. It just awful quarterbacking here from Rodgers. Awful all around for Pittsburgh's offense. They even missed the field goal, which is unusual for Boswell. So imagine being a Steeler fan traveling across the country and seeing this garbage. So rough scene here by the Steelers. They do not look like a playoff team. And the Ravens, we'll catch them next week. Like I said, the Ravens play the Browns, so the Ravens are going to improve to 5-5, and the Steelers, who are 5-4 right now, they play the Bengals. So that I feel like that could be a 50-50 game. The Steelers are going to be favored by a few points, maybe 4.5 or 5. I haven't been looking at the lines yet, but they'll be favored to win, but they could easily lose to a Cincinnati team coming off their bye. And if Trey Hendrickson is playing, Cincinnati's going to have a good chance to pull the upset. So, it's going to be tied sooner or later, and the Ravens will win this division. So, those are my thoughts. Of course, we have the last game, the Eagles-Packers. I'll discuss that in the NFL Power Rankings show, which we'll have tomorrow. Otherwise, please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit walterfootball.com for tons of free NFL content, and I will talk to you in the next video.